Hello, friends. Welcome to Charlie's Creative Corner. Glad you could come by today. Today we're going to do part 2 of our beaded Sandhill crane bag, and this might be. I'm not gonna lie. This is going to be a pretty drawn out situation because these are not an easy project to dig into. They take a lot of time, but it will be well worth it. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to go through the entire pattern together on film. I might start you off and then kind of get you used to it and then continue on my own until we finish. And then we can do the other things like add our fringes and our chain to hang the bag from around our neck. But I mean, we're just going to kind of play it by ear. And so we'll kind of just see how it all goes. I don't know. This is kind of a first for me, so I'm just kind of winging it. I'm going to be honest. We're going to wing it together. We're going to try and get this done. So the last video we went through on the pattern, and a little cricket over here, and we went through the pattern and drew it up together. And you should probably have something that looks like this. And so if you didn't see that, you might want to go back to part 1 of this and get your pattern drawn up. And we will go off of this pattern together and work our way through the bag. Now, you can do another pattern, but it might be a lot more complicated and harder for you to follow along if you use a different pattern, if you use a pattern that's your own. I'm not saying there's anything against it, but you might want to just try and go along with the video for your first bag. It might help you to make the bag. It might make it a little easier to kind of have a first trial run. I don't know. Do what you want. It's your life. Do what you want. So, but you should have a pattern drawn up from if you went off the last video, and it was probably kind of a really boring video. You were probably just like, okay, yeah, great. You're coloring little circles. But I did that for the sole purpose that we would have a pattern for everyone to go off of, because I don't have any way of downloading this onto a page of like a web page for you to go print out or whatever. I don't have that. I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. I would rather be beading than worry about all this technical stuff. So I did a video with you. And not everybody has printers available to them and things like that also. So, like I said, you can get your brick stitch graph paper online. You can find it, and you can print that out, and you can go through with me and do that. And if you don't have a printer, maybe if you go to your local library, they'll let you. I'm pretty sure they let people print things out still, and you can go and have them print that graph paper out if you like. So we got that drawn up on our last video. It took a while, but it was well worth it. And let's see what's going on. We had some crazy thunderstorms last night. It was kind of cool. It was kind of the first thunderstorm of the season. Shay didn't like it. He was a little scaredy cat. He was a little chicken. He was kind of like, oh my gosh, he thought he was going to die. It was some pretty serious thunder, though. Luckily, no hail or anything like that. So we did get a nice thunderstorm, got some good rain. We needed some rain. I did start a project last night. I don't know about it. It's one of those things. It's creativity, so you can never quite win with it. But it's supposed to be, well, it will be a side fringe bag. Now, I used my darker leather, and so I had to draw my pattern with white colored pencil is what I used, because I didn't have a crayon that I could find. I know I have crayons somewhere, but I couldn't find them. So this is the back of the bag, and you can see the pattern drawn on there. And then this is going to be the front, like this, okay, and the pattern's on there, and then this flap comes over after you put it together, And then there's the side fringe, which you attach to each side and then cut to create the fringe. Now, the only issue I'm having with this bag right now is I am trying my hand at lazy stitch, and I'm not doing very good. And I'm thinking it's because this is such a thin leather. This is a real thin leather, and I'm not quite able to poke through that top layer at all to get it. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to pull all of this out that I have. I'm going to pull all that out of there, and I'm just going to do applique on it because this is such a thin leather. If I had more like a thicker buckskin, I think it wouldn't be such a big ordeal for me because it doesn't look that terrible considering this is my first time doing lazy stitch, but it's so thin. So I think I'm going to go through and I'm going to pull this out of here, and I'm just going to go in strips and fill it in that way and kind of see where that goes. I do like this dark kind of hunter green colored leather though. I like that a lot. So I'll have to see if I can hunt down more of that. But that was my pursuit last night, and it didn't go so well. I kind of got frustrated and I sat it down. I said, you know what? Whatever, I'm done. And that's okay. I think I was a little tired too, but you know, Tuesdays are kind of a longer day for me at work. But so that's what I'm pursuing now on my own off of the channel. And I was hoping I could get the lazy stitch to work better, but so I could do a video, but it's not floating for me. So I'm gonna have to practice it a little more or something. I'll figure it out. I always do. Just like we're gonna figure out this bag stuff today. I know how to do this, but I screwed up on my pattern so bad last time, and I pray that this pattern will not do the same thing, because I want to do this so bad. I want to make this crane bag so bad because I have a crane shirt. I have 2 crane shirts, so I have a shirt, 2 shirts that it would go with really well that I could wear it with. So hopefully it works out. Anything else? Let's see. Oh, I got to rearrange my room back to normal again. I'll kind of spin you around, but there's no more cage. No more. See, there's Shade down there. Hi, Shade. Oh, he's sleeping. No more cage in the room. So I put my piano back over where it was before. I did kind of rearrange a little bit because I do have this air conditioner that I had to put in. And so I had to kind of readjust things. And I got my rocking chair back again. And, you know, things are kind of getting normal again in my room, which is a great feeling. It's always a good thing to know when things are the way you want them and they go back to how they were before. Like, you kind of get that same energy back in here. Shade's doing well. He's just been hanging out. He likes to lay in the bathtub. So he's been spending some good time laying in the bathtub. He spent almost all day yesterday. We have our couch next to our window in the living room, and he likes to lay on the arm of the couch and look out the window. So he was out there all day, almost all day yesterday, laying on that arm of the couch, watching the grackles and the other birds and the robins, and he was enjoying that. So he hasn't had any window time in a long time. So it's good to have him back out and back to normal. Oh my goodness, it's such a good feeling. And plus, it's giving me more time because I'm not having to clean a cage 5 times a day and let him out and baby him and give him medicine. And, you know, it's time consuming to do those things. And anybody out there who's out there taking care of animals, and that is your job, God bless you, because it is so demanding. And anybody who has the heart and the time to do such a thing, you deserve the best, because the animals need you, and it's such a great thing for people to do such good things for animals, to care so much for them. And it's hard work. It's not easy to do those things. But that's pretty much all that's been going on. I'm going to get us turned around here, and we will kind of go through our supplies, which isn't too many. It's more beads than anything. And get started on this beaded treasure purse. I'm excited. I'm so excited about this. We can do this, guys. We got this. We got this. We're going to do it. So I'll turn you around and we'll get going. Okay, so we have everything turned around here. Now, first thing obviously we're going to need is our pattern. And like I said, that is in our previous of part 1 of this, where I show you how to draw up and get your pattern all ready. Now, if you don't want the same colors, you can change your colors around. That's entirely up to you. It might make reading along with the video a little more difficult, but it's worth a shot. You can try it if you want. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, obviously pick out our beads. And I've already picked out all of mine, and the names of mine are over here. And I'm going to have mine over here on the hank, like that. Okay. Now, the first part that we're going to start with is going to be our foundation row. So that's going to be the first part, and it's not colored in because you can make your foundation row whatever color you want. I'm going to make mine dark green. I don't know if you can really see that. It's kind of a cloudy day. It's not very bright today, but that is a dark green color. So as far as supplies go, you're not going to need much. You're going to obviously need your pattern. You're going to need your beads. You're going to need and I'm using size 11 beads, just so everybody knows. I mean, size 10, you're going to get a really big bag with a size 10. Now, you could do size, 12 or something like that, and there's going to be a little bit smaller of beads, so they might be a little harder to work with. 11's, pretty much your standard check. Sorry, excuse me. It's your standard check bead, easy to find bead size. So I'm going with size 11. You're also going to need some kind of snips, kind of scissors or snippers or anything that you got around to snip your thread with. Some beeswax. Obviously, we love our beeswax. And we're also going to need a size 0 nymo thread. I'm getting a little low on this one, but I have more, so I'm not too concerned about it. Remember, I had to put a order in a while back ago. Now, basically, this is a typical brick stitch pattern. Okay, there's a little bit of differences here and there with it. So let's get our thread going. I'm going to do a wingspan from my left thumb to my right and spread my arms, and I'm also going to do an arm span. We can add more thread as we go. That is not an issue. So we'll get that going, and then we will, I like to kind of give it a little tug, pull out that curliness of the thread, make it look a little straighter, easier to work with, and it won't tangle as badly. And then we're going to give it a good wax. Now, waxing is just a standard thing. You want to keep your thread from tangling, and beeswax helps keep your thread from getting all tangled up on you. And it just makes your life way, way easier with this thread. Because, this nylon thread likes to tangle. And it's a thin thread, and good luck getting any tangles out of these. It's not an easy thing to do. Once you get tangled, you really probably rarely get out of it. So give it a nice double coat probably of wax there. Okay, and we will thread up our needle here. I'm just using a standard size 11 beading needle. Like that. And boy, I just noticed how dry my hands are today. The weather changed on us again and kind of got cooler. It's not freezing though, so I'm not going to complain. It's not like it has been. There we go. And we are all threaded up. We have our pattern, we have our thread and our needle, and now we just need our beads. I'm going to do my foundation row. You see, this is all dark green down here. I'll bring it in a little. So I'm going to make my foundation row dark green. And I like to keep my pattern within reach and where I can look at it. I like to be able to look at it if I need to see it. And as far as with the hank goes, we already know how to separate hanks, but just pull a little bit off the top. Whoops, and drop it. That's all right. It fell in the box, so I don't mind. I'm cool with that. Now, you do want to kind of cull your beads and regulate your beads quite a bit with this design because it is brick stitch. So try to keep your beads all the same size. So if you have one that's larger or smaller, if you don't like throwing your beads away, don't throw it away, but I would recommend putting it aside so that you can use it later if you want, but I wouldn't use it if it's too big or too small for your pattern. Now, so we have our beads. I'm just putting out the one color because we're starting with our foundation row. I know it's so dark. I'm sorry, guys. So dark. Try and get a good angle for you here. Now, oh, the color. Look at that. That's terrible. That was weird. See that? It must be the bead pad. I did change out my bead pad, so that must be what the problem is here. So with our foundation row, if you've ever done, say, brick stitch earrings, it'll be kind of like starting your brick stitch earrings. So this is our foundation row here. And if you wanted to, you could use bugle beads for these to go all the way across the bottom, but I'm going to use seed beads. So each one of these little rectangles here is going to represent 3 seed beads for me, okay? And so it's basically 3 seed beads stacked. Now, for our first beginning of the foundation, we're going to want to add 6 seed beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, onto our thread. And if you're using bugles, it'd be 2 bugle beads. And we're going to do that to start off with. 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have our 6 beads here. And we're going to bring those down. Kind of close. We want to leave a tail so that we can add that in and hide it later. So leave yourself a good, 6-inch tail down at the bottom. Now, I'm going to take my bugle or my seed beads like this on my finger, and I'm going to go up from the bottom, go through the bottom, through 6. The light is awful today, the lighting. Oh, I just lost my light. I unplugged it. 1 second. Okay, there we go. Got her readjusted there. And okay, so we're going to leave a 6-inch tail here. And then I like to hold my beads kind of like that when I do it. And then you want to take your needle and come through the bottom 3 beads. 1, 2, 3. Just like that. Okay. And pull it through. Like that. And then they will kind of connect to each other and stack up into place. And then we're going to bring our needle back through the top, and see the second row here, so it'll be these second 3. And we're going to bring our needle back through those 3 beads and down. And this is just kind of reinforcing on everything if I don't get tangled. So it's going to have, you're going to have something that kind of looks like that. Okay? The focusing is kind of crappy today. And then I'm going to go back up one more time through the first 3 and then back down and through the second row of 3. I just want to make sure that's going to be secure and nice and secure. Like so. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to keep doing this. And that right there counts as the first 2 rows. And we want to go all the way across, and then we're going to have to do it all the way again for the back. So together, let me count here. Got it. That's right. I think it was 23. So that was 23. Which is going to be 46 altogether. Because you're going to want to take the 23 here times 2, because you're going to have to do the back. So pretend this is the front and then that one's the back. So you're going to need 46 of these all together. Now I'll go through a couple more with you and then we'll work separately on the rest of them. And then I'll show you where to go from there. So get this pencil out of my way. We'll add 1, 2, 3, and then put 3 beads on. And then we want to come up from the top because our thread's coming from the bottom here. So we want to go through the top. Maybe. There we go. Like so. And then bring it down. And then those are going to stack next to those 3. Sometimes you gotta maneuver them like that. And then you want to bring it, or your thread's going to be coming from the bottom, and then you want to go through from the bottom up the 3 that you just put on. So you should have 3 rows now, like that. And they'll settle down, just sometimes it helps to maneuver them. And now we're going to add 3 more. And we're going to come, our thread's coming out of the top, so we're going to come up from the bottom and up. And this is going to be a repeat pattern all the way through like this, all the way through that first foundation row. So now we're coming out of the top, and we're going to go through that row next door to that and go through those 3 like that. Okay. And that just reinforces everything and makes sure everything's going to stay into place. Just like that. Here we go. There, I think I finally got my light adjusted. That dark green doesn't show up all too well, so that wasn't the best decision for color, but that's okay. So we have our thread coming down from the bottom, and you know which one's going to be the bottom and which is the top because your tail's here, and that's going to be your bottom. And so this is our top. And so now we're coming from the bottom of those 3 that we just strung. And now we want to string 3 more. So we're going to go through these top 3 just like that and pull through. There we go. And those will they'll figure themselves out. And then come back up. Like that. Sometimes you have to finagle them a little. Okay, so you'll have something like that. And then we want to add 3 more. And then we'll go, our thread's coming out of the top, so we'll go through the bottom. And then pull it through. And our thread's coming out of the top of that one there now. And so we want to bring our thread down. And that just kind of connects and makes that nice strong bridge to work off of. See, those are our little bridges up at the top like that. So our thread's coming out of the bottom here. And you'll be kind of going back and forth like this the whole way, all the way around. You want to add 3 more, or 1 if it's a bugle bead. And then bring it, our thread's coming out of the bottom. So whichever direction your thread is coming out of, when you add your 3 beads or your bugle bead, whichever direction this thread is coming out of, oh, stupid focus, you want to go through the other direction, the opposite of where that thread is. Just like that. Pull through. Go. And then, so now, of course, your thread's going to be coming out of there. Keeps focusing on these beads. I'm going to try and get those out of the way a little better. So now your thread's coming out of the bottom of the previous 3. And so we want to come back up next door to that through the 3 we just put on. Okay. And that just reinforces everything, makes everything nice and strong. And you want to give it a nice chug, but you don't want to tug too hard. You don't want it curling up on you. And we'll add 3 more. I'll go through this a couple more times, and then I'll let you do your 46 rows. So you put 3 beads on, and see your thread's coming out of the top, so you want to go on the opposite. You want to go where the thread isn't coming out of. You want to go underneath. Like that. Okay. Pull through. Like that. And then bring it back down. The opposite one. Give it a little tug. Just like that. And we'll do 1 more. So our thread's coming out of the bottom here. Oh, the focus is awful today. And we'll add 3 beads. 1, 2, 3. And we will go into the top because our thread's coming out of the bottom. Like that. And pull through. And then our thread's coming out down here, so we want to go next door to it and come up just to reinforce that bridge. And that is our foundation brick stitch there. And I did that many, but I'm going to finish mine on my own. But I want you guys to do, you're going to need 23 one way and 23 the other way. So you have to do a row of 46 of these, okay? So 46 of 3 sets. So each one of these is a set, so you need 46 of those. So go 46 across, and then I'll show you where to go from there. And I'll be right back. All right, I have my I have 45 sets of 3 here down my foundation row. I just need to put 1 more. I want to show you how to put your last one on. You just add your 3 beads. Have a thick bead there. And then do the same as you would with the others. Go in through the bottom or top, depending on where you're coming out, and pull through. And then come back down into that neighbor next to where the thread's coming out. Just like that. Now, so you should have 46 of these all the way across your foundation row. So you need 46 all the way across. And I always double, triple check, because you don't want to have it to where you have been doing all of that and then you're short a row, and then you start getting into it and it, you know, it's not lining up, and that's upsetting. So I always double, triple check my count on my foundation row. So we have all our rows here. Now, this is our beginning here where our tail's coming out, okay? And we want to get our thread back to the start, and we want to reinforce this row of foundation beads. And in order to do that, I'm going to hold mine. This is my thread coming out here. This is my tail down here. I'm going to kind of hold it like this just so you guys can see it a little better. Now, my thread's coming out of the bottom here, and I'm just going to go down a row all the way down, and I'm going to go through the side, okay, and pull through. And I'm just reinforcing this. And then see, it's coming out there. So I'm going to go down in the next row and come down. And if you were holding it this way, it would be, I'm going to go up from the bottom up in the neighboring row, coming out of the top there. And then I'm going to come down into the neighboring row. So you're just going down, up, all the way down, or left, right, however you're holding your work, all the way down until we get into the end where our tail is. And this is just reinforcing everything and making sure that it's nice and sturdy, and it's going to hold tight, and it's going to be nice and even looking. And you want to do this all the way down, all your 46 rows. You're going to be putting a thread in each one, going back and forth, weaving in and out, just to reinforce your work. And it'll line everything up real nice too. So just work your way down the row. It goes pretty quick. It seems like 46 is a lot, but you got to think this is the front and the back. This isn't just the front of our work. And I'm just going to work my way down. I'm going to work my way all the way down to here. I'm going to work my way down to this second to last row, and then I will come back, okay? Okay, so I'm down to my second to last bead, and so this here is my tail at the beginning. And this here, next to it, is my thread with my needle on it, okay? And so you want that one coming out of there. Now, the key is to have, you need to go through this last one and make sure you hold on to your tail so it doesn't get tangled up when you go through. And then you want to take your needle and come up through that very first row. This is going to be considered our first row because our tail's coming out of there. And so you want to take your needle up and through there, and that'll be your last reinforcement bridge there that you add to your beads. So now your tail's coming out down here, and then your thread with your needle's coming up out here, right? That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Excuse me. Now, what we want to do is we want to take this foundation row and we want to make this into a hoop, okay? So we want to take, what we're going to do is we want to bring this end in. I kind of need to give a tug here. I'm a little not kind of kinked up in places. Kind of work it through. And so we want to, so this is our first bead here, okay? And then we want to take our end. This is our end. There's no thread. There's not going to be any thread coming off that end. And I'm going to connect those. So I'm going to fold this in half like that, okay? I'm going to fold that in half. And then my two ends are going to be over here, right here, okay? Now, this is our tail on this side, and then this is our thread. And so we're going to take our needle and see our thread's coming up out of this top bead here. And so we want to take our needle and come down into the end, okay? And this is going to create a ring. This is going to connect these and create the ring or the shape of the purse. Now try and keep this tail out of your way. It's kind of hard, but make sure you don't get that tail bunched up in there. And so we've come down, and now we want to go back up through the very first set of beads, okay, like that. And then we're going to want to do that again to reinforce that. And then you, whoops, got caught. And then the last one, you're going to come up through that first set. This first set is the one with the tail, remember. And that is the one you want to be coming up and out of, okay? Just like that, okay? So we're going to have a little ring now of brick stitch. And those are going to be attached together. And that, you can see, will be the shape of our purse, okay? And we have our tail coming out here and our thread coming out over here on the right. Now our tail's going to be coming out here and our thread's coming up out here, okay? And so that's going to be considered the right side of the piece, okay? And it's going to be the left side over here, okay? So you're going to have something a little like that. And that's exactly what you want it to look like. And that is our foundation row there. That's how we do our foundation row. Now, because our foundation row is finished, I am going to take a pencil. I'm just going to put an X over here so I know my foundation row is finished, okay? And that way we kind of know where we're at and what we've done. And it's always good to kind of keep marking your chart, and so you can kind of keep in place and know where you're at, okay? Now, we're going to start adding on the colored part of the pattern. I'm going to bring this out a little so you can kind of see this a little better. Now, as far as reading the chart goes, we are going, the foundation is the only part of the chart where we work from left to right, okay? From this point on, with the rest of our pattern here, we're going to be working from right to left, right to left. Because what's going to happen is we're going to stitch this piece, and then we're going to stitch the back, and then we're going to meet back up on the right side. Now, as you can see here, this side here is the in bead, okay? See how that goes in? Because this is the end of our foundation right here. Things in my way. So this is the end of our foundation right here, this bar here, okay? This last set of beads. And so when we're going to our first row, see how that kind of goes in almost to the center of that last bead on the foundation row? So that's considered an in bead, okay? And then this one above it is an out bead. Now, the in beads are considered, how do I word this? Negative or odd, I would say. I'd say odd. So this bead here, the in beads are odd, and the outer beads are considered even, okay? So if you look at the chart, this would be, let me zoom in, this would be row 1, which is an odd number. This is row 2, which is an even number. This is row 3, which is an odd number, okay? So the in beads equal odd, and the out beads equal even, okay? Now this, I'm telling you this because this is going to play a role, and she mentions this in the book, which is a very good way to kind of keep track of where you've been. And also, when you end a row, you have to go in and out of a bead a certain way depending on what row you're on, okay? And she mentions that because when you mark your chart as you go along and you're doing your work or whatever, what you want to do as you mark your chart, so when you mark your chart, say, this is just an example because we haven't gotten this far yet. Say you finish this row, right? You're going to want to mark that with a check mark. That way you know, check, that's been done, okay? And then when you mark your even ones, you want to mark those just with a line. And that way you know. So we'll be marking these as we go with check, line, check, line, check, line, etc. That way you know the row has been done, and then you know how to go through the beads to end up in the proper position to make your row and your pattern line up. Okay, now I went through that for a reason. So our end beads are odd numbered lines, and we're going to mark those with a check. Now our out beads are our even lines, like line 2, line 4, line 6, and we're going to mark those with a little line. That way we know and understand, hey, this is where I've been, and this is how I need to, I guess as you would say, turn around to line up where I need to be. Now, we're going to start adding color in our pattern here. I got to get my black here. I got to get some black. And I'm just going to kind of get my beads out as I go because cats. So I kind of started with darker colors, but we'll get some other colors in as we go along. Okay. I'm sorry if you can hear that. I'm getting a little bit of work done on my porch right now. Okay, so back to our work here. I'm going to have to come out just a little for you guys. Let me cut this top off of here, make this a little smaller. That almost landed in the trash. Okay, so hopefully we can see that. Now these are my black beads over here. You can't even tell the difference between these black and these dark greens. Sorry, but it's only for the first row where it's really just a bad deal. Okay. Okay, so now our first part of the row is where our threads are coming out, okay? So as you can see here, I can get it to line up right. That's where you want your fold, okay? So you want that folded like that at the end, because that's our very first bead. This is considered our first bead. And we are working, do not forget, from right to left. From right to left. Always work right to left, okay? Now we're going to want to I like to take it and I just kind of hold it. Kind of like that. It's about as good as you can do. It's kind of awkward to hold the first so many rows. Now, with this first part of our pattern, we have 1, 2, 3, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 dark green beads. And so I'm going to pick up one bead. Pick up one at a time. So pick up one bead. And what you want to do is you want to bring, kind of trying to get a grip here. Make sure your thread with your needle is coming up from the top. Now, you see your bridges here. That's what we're going to be working on this whole thing. So our first bridge, obviously, is the one right next to our thread there. So we want to bring our needle through that bridge, just kind of rubbing up underneath it like that, okay? Make sure you string your one bead, go through that bridge, and pull through, just like that. And then you want to come back underneath. This is kind of tricky here. Underneath, because it likes to move around. I like to take mine and grab it and kind of hold it with my 2 fingers here. Kind of like that. And then you want to go up underneath and through the bead you just put on, okay? Like that. And that'll set that bead down nice and flat on that first row. And we're going to do this all the way around. Now, grab another bead, maybe, go underneath that bridge. Okay, I'm going to move this because it's in the way right now, but we're doing 21 dark green beads. So you want to take your needle and go underneath the neighboring bridge, like that, and pull through, and then come up and under and through the bead that you just laid. And that'll flatten that down and make it lay nice and uniform. We're going to do that again. We're going to go next door, the bead next door to it, and bring it through and bring it up. And we're going to do this all the way across here through our pattern for 21 of these beads. So underneath the bridge, if you've done, pull through and then back through that bead from the bottom up through the top. I'm a little shaky today, I'm sorry guys. Now if you've done the brick stitch, this is going to be standard for you. It's going to be standard. The only complicated parts really are, of course, your pattern. You have to make sure that your pattern is coming through properly, but you also have to make sure that you close the row, or I guess that's what she calls it in the book, is closing the row. And that's basically making sure that you're turning your needle in and through the beads. And I'll show this to you as we go along, but you want to make sure that your thread's coming in the proper position so that your pattern lines up with the next row, which would be our even row. So the odd row starts on a different bead than the even. And that might sound weird and complicated. I'm sorry. It'll make more sense as we go along. But we want to work our way through this first row. We'll get through this first row first, and then we'll go from there. And it's somewhat time consuming at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's not bad. And if you know brick stitch, it goes pretty quick. But it's all about learning your ending and starting points, basically. And that's why it's important that you know that your in beads means that it's an even, your in bead means that it's an odd bead. And then that you're using the check mark to check that off. And then your out bead means it's an even row, and that we're using the line to check that off. And that is vital, because you can't come in and out the wrong way or close the row the way you're supposed to unless you know what row it is. And that's vital, because if you don't come up through the right bead when you're starting your next row, then your pattern isn't going to line up. It's not going to work for you. And always keep track, because all it takes is one time not marking it, and then you're messing up and pulling beads and having to start over, or God knows what. So always try and keep a pencil with you and just kind of mark as you go along. This is easy enough with the brick stitch. It's just a little hard sometimes with the angle for me because of filming, but pick up your bead, go under the bridge with your needle, and then pick up a bead, go under the bridge, pull it through, and then go back up from the bottom up through that bead. And that's it. That's all the brick stitch is. Now I'm going to count, see where I'm at here. I know I'm not 21, but got 13 there. The maintenance guys repairing our porch. We had a board break on there. There was a knot in it, and it got weak and just kind of busted through. Luckily, we aren't on like a high level porch around the ground level, but it could have been worse. My hubby was sitting there and one morning and he just this loudest noise. It scared the crap out of me and his foot went through it. Luckily he didn't get hurt. So he's over here repairing that today. Whoop. See, now we're starting to kind of make sense here. It's looking a little better. I can find what direction I'm going. Be right back. Hang on. All right, so I'm going to keep on going here. I wish these colors were a little more distinctive, but I mean, in real life they look fine, but on video you can't really tell the difference between the two, but that's okay. Once I get my black on there, you probably won't really be able to see it, but it is what it is, I guess. And I kind of like to hold it like this in between my fingers like that. It kind of helps keep it under control and makes it a little easier to work with. You're probably going to hear a little bit of work going on. I got the maintenance guys are here doing some work for us. And these do take a lot of time, but they're totally worth it. Bring in just a little. And like I said, try and kind of curl your beads a little bit. Make them even, make them look nice. Because they are going to be stacking on top of one another. So, boy, the focus is just a nightmare today. Let me check my account here. And sometimes it helps to just fold it and then you can kind of gauge. I think I might almost be there. Let me check here. $20, so I need one more green. So one more dark green. Boy, I don't care for that bead too much. He's quite large, so I'm going to pull that off of there. And that's what I'm talking about with culling your beads. Make sure that they're all pretty much the same size or very close. It's just going to make it look more even and line up nicer. Now, try that again. All right, so that's my last dark green bead there. Oh. There we go. So we have all 21 of these dark green beads. Okay, so now we need 2 black. So we're going to add 2 black beads. Whoops. Got caught there. So you can't really tell with these colors, like I said, but they will. We got some more colors coming in on our next row. The lighting today is awful. It is dark. And if I go outside today, I'm not even wearing sunglasses and I have incredibly light sensitive eyes. So that's saying something if I'm not wearing sunglasses in the daytime. That means that it is dark. But we had all those storms run through last night, so I'm guessing that's probably part of it. Okay, so there are our 23 beads for our front pattern. Okay, if I can get through, geez Louise. There we go. So this is our front right here. Okay, so when you fold that, this is your first bead you started with here. And then that's your end bead. So when you fold that, see how that lines up perfect? Absolutely perfect. Okay, so that's the front part of our pattern. Now, we don't have the back because I'm just, let me zoom out a little. I'm just doing a solid color on the back. Okay, I decided that I want to go, sorry, it's going to be another dark color, but I'm going to use the navy blue here for my background. And I have some of these already out. That's not going to be enough anyway, so I'm just going to cut them off my hank. And so now we're going to do the back. So this is going to be what's going to be behind the bag, the back of the bag. And, you know, you could put a design on the back, but my logic is that, first of all, nobody's going to be seeing it because it's going to be hanging, and it's not going to be hanging from the front. But my logic is that is why. And I mean, you could put a design back there. There's nothing saying that you can't. But I'm just going to keep mine a solid color, kind of make it a little more simple. And also, it's just how I wanted to do it. So I'm using a navy blue for my background. And now for the back, all you have to do is exactly what you were doing with the front. Just go all the way around. Now, I mean, you could use like the green, like this color here, if you wanted. But I'm going to be using the dark blue. So I'll zoom in just a touch. That lighting is just awful today. I'm sorry. And then we're just going to add our dark blues to the back here. And we're going to go all the way back to the bead that we started with, our very first bead that we began with. And we're just going to add our back coloring here. And it's the same way that we did it in the front. Only it's going to be the background. And that's why we double everything, because we're doing a front and a back, because it's going to be a bag. So that's why everything is being doubled. And so just work your way around around the back with your solid color. Whichever color you chose. You could do green, you can do blue, you can do light blue, whatever color you choose to do. And it's just the same brick stitch pattern. Like I said, it can be kind of hard to get through that bead. And that's the most difficult part of this, I believe. And I'm going to continue working. And when I get to putting on my last bead, I will come back and I will show you where we go from there. So I'm down to my last bead here. Now I got you can see that I got all my blue filled in for my back. So that's my back. And now we're back. This is the first row right here. Remember where our tail's coming out of. Okay. So I'm going to add a bead. This is going to be my last bead in the whole entire row. I'm going to stick that underneath that there. This stupid focus is just terrible today. Sorry, guys. I'm going to pull that through and bring my needle up and through just like that. Okay, so that is our row. Now, see how we got this is our first part of our pattern, and this is the back of the bag. Now, we have to close this row. And by closing the row, I mean we have to make sure we reposition our thread where it's going to be able to come back out of the right area. But we also, if you look closely, this part right here doesn't have a bridge. And so we need to create a bridge going across that, because we're going to need that bridge for our next row to hook onto. So part of closing the row is adding that extra bridge. So in order to do that, what you want to do is you want to take your needle. So this is, okay, so this one focus, this blue bead is our last bead, and this green bead here, right here, is our first bead. Okay, so we want to bring our needle down from the top to the bottom through the first bead of the row. Okay, so bring your needle from the top to the bottom through that very first bead that we put on. And see, that creates that bridge right there. Okay, now in order to reposition, we have to reposition to where we're going to be able to have a place to start our second row. So we came through that first bead, and you want to take your needle. You see this, the beads there, that blue bead there is our last bead, okay? And so you want to go from the bottom through the top, right here, through that last bead. So you want to take your needle from the bottom and then pull up through the top of the last bead there. So now your thread is going to be coming out of that last bead, just like that, okay? Now, the reason we did that is so that we can be lined up for our next row, and we also created the bridge. So we're done with the very first row here, and remember we went through our in and out beads and our odd and our evens. So our in bead, that was our very first row. Okay, that was our first row, was our in bead, which was our odd. Okay, so we finished that, and I am going to take my pen or pencil or whatever you're using, and I'm going to put a check mark right there. Oops, I don't think you saw that. I'm going to put a check mark right here. Okay, and that way, see the little check mark? We know we've done that row. We know that it was an odd row, and we know it's finished. And we know that we've closed it. Now, after you're done with stitching all the beads on and closing the row, then check it off. If you haven't closed your row, don't check it off, because then you're not going to know if you've done it or not. You need to keep really good close watch on closing that row. That is vital to this lining up correctly. Now we're going to start on our second row here, and I do believe I have all my colors out. And this is our second row right here, and it's the odd or the even. So this is the out bead sticking out. And so we want to stitch this second row here. Okay. Now sometimes it does help. I have little sticky notes here. And sometimes if you need help, like kind of keeping your place and where you are, I like to take a little sticky note like that. And you can put it either directly underneath or next to where you've been. And that way you kind of know where you were working if you have to set your work down fast. So that kind of helps keep track of that for you. So for our second row here, we have, let's see, what do we got here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 dark green beads. And we're going to start this just the exact same that we started the last one. Now don't forget, you'll be coming out of that background bead, the back part. Okay, so just start adding your beads. I'm going to do a, whoops, that's a blue. We don't want a blue, we want a green. Sorry guys, having a hard time seeing stuff today. It's so dark. Okay. So we want to pick up a bead and go under and through that bridge. And then back through the bead. and pull it. And we'll keep doing this for a little while. Now I'm going to work probably this row and then show you how to finish off, because it's different when you finish off an even row than it is when you finish an odd. And then I'm going to just work rows, and then when I get to those odd and evens again, I'll show you one more time. And then I'm going to let you continue to work on the pattern on your own, because it's just, you know, you can go back to the first few and watch them, and that'll help guide you through it and kind of keep you in line if you need to go back and see how something was done. But that way you'll know 100% on how to do your odd and even rows, because that is vital to this pattern and to doing these beaded bags. I wanted to mention, you can see now in the pattern, the first two here are the dark greens, okay? And you can see, like here, is your dark green bead to start your first row, and then your blue for your back. And then above that is the first bead for your second row. And see how the first bead goes in, and then the second bead comes out. And then when you do your next, it'll go in and out, in, out, in, out, in, out, all the way up and down, so that you can even see it based upon your pattern and where you're laying at in where your beads are laying. And that way you'll also know you're doing it right. That's why you want to mark as you go along. I lost my count though, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let me double check here. Okay, so we got 16 dark green. And now we need 2 dark blue. And remember, always follow your pattern from right to left. Right to left. And now we need 2 dark green. And 2 black. And then 1 dark green. And that's going to be our second row. This is going to be our even row, our second row. Like that. And so then, now that you're done with your second row, you can see there how when you add a blue bead here for your background, that'll be going in, which is how you want it, because the other side is going to be the opposite of the side you're starting on. So that's what this one's going to be, an outer, an inner bead, and then the one above that's going to be outer, and then inner, outer, inner, outer, and that's going to do the same thing like it's doing over here, where it's going out, in, out, in, out, in. So that's exactly what you want, because if you look at your pattern, in, out, and then this is out, in, out, in, out, in. Okay, and that's exactly how you want to do it. Now we're going to add the rest of our back beads. These are going to be the back of the purse here, the back purse beads. And I'm going to keep doing my dark blue. So I'm going to add all these real quick. I'll let you continue to add yours, and then I'm going to come back and add the last bead and show you how to close off the row to start another one, okay? Be right back. Okay, so I'm going to add my last bead onto this row here, on our second row. Add that last bead there, and then come back up through it, just like that. Now ending closing the row for the second row for your even rows are a lot different. Now what you want to do is remember, we need to create that bridge because we don't have a bridge here. So we need to create that bridge. This one's different than the first one. The odd one's a little bit easier. The even's a little bit different. Now, hopefully I can get this to focus proper. There we go. What you want to do is you want to bring your needle. So this is your last bead here. This was the first bead that we strung here, this green one right here. Now we want to bring our needle in. Also want to grab the one directly below and to the left of it. Okay? These dark beads are kind of hard to see. I should have used a different color, but that kind of gives you an idea. So you want to go, I'll show you again. So the first bead, you go in through that first bead from the top down, A little better, I hope. And then you also want to go to the bead directly below that to the left. So below to the left. So kind of catty-cornered to the left of that first bead. And you just bring your needle down through there. Okay, just like that. And then you want to enter into the, okay, so now what you want to do after that, so we've went through that first bead. Okay, remember this green is your first bead. And we went through down through that one and then one below kind of to the left of that one, okay? Now what you want to do is you want to take your needle and go into the bead from bottom to top of the one directly next to where your thread is coming out of, okay? And so you bring that up and through that bead right next to him. And then you want this thread to come out of that first bead again. Remember, this was our first bead. So you want to take your needle and you want to go into that first bead like that and come up and through. And that's going to place your thread coming out of the first bead. And the reason for that is because we need an inside bead, an odd bead again, okay? Remember this first one, come on, focus. This first one here was an in bead. The second was an odd. Now, in order to do that, if we were coming out of here, it would go out. And we don't want it coming out. We want it the next row to go in. So we need to be coming out of this bead so we can hook onto this bridge here, okay? And then that will line up with the first row's first bead, okay? Now I'm going to kind of draw you a simple diagram. It will maybe help you, and I hope the drawing is okay. I'm not a very great artist, but this will kind of give you a general idea and maybe something kind of to go off of as far as closing your beads, your rows. Okay, so consider this. We'll just do it down here. Okay, consider this your foundation row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's your foundation row here, right? And then we have our beads laying on the bridges here, okay? Now, when you're finished, say this bead right here is the first bead, or your first 3 seed beads, okay? Now, what you're going to want to do, because when you finish, you know, you're going to be coming out of this bead right here. This will be your last bead, okay? So as you're coming out of that last bead, to close it, you want to bring your thread from the top down through that first bead. This is the first bead right here, okay? And then back down and up through the last bead, okay? Because this is your last bead right there. I hope that is a okay diagram. I don't know. That looks horrible. You can't read that at all. So when you're finished with your row, this one here is your last bead. See that? That's your last bead right here. So that's where you're going to be finishing. And then we have to create that bridge. So you have to go up from the top down through that first bead and then come back up through that last bead. Okay. And so this right here is your odd closing. So this is your odd close right here. This one. Okay, now, even one's gonna be a little more complex to draw, I believe. But let me give it a shot. So, this is your foundation row here. Okay. Okay. And then we have our first row here. Like that. Okay, and then our second row. Like that. Okay. Now, our second row, say this right here is the first bead. Okay. And so this one here, right here, is our last bead. So that's going to be your last bead that you came out of. Okay, so this one here will be your first. So this is your first bead, and this is your last bead. Okay, and this is the first row. And so what you want to do is you're going to be coming out of that one. So you need to come up through with your thread, and you need to go down through that first bead, and then the one to the bottom left of it, right? Remember that? And then you're going to want to come back to the one behind it, behind this bead here, and go through that, and then come back up through the first one. It's basically making little hoops to add that bridge. So this is your last bead, this is your first bead. You're going to come up and through this first bead, through the one below to the left, like kind of the left below catty corner. Go through those two, and then come back behind those, come up through the bead next to that one, and then back up through that first bead. You want that to be coming out of your first bead. Okay, so if this makes sense, that's your even close. Okay, and for your what am I trying to say here? I'm losing it. Hang on. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that your odd close, okay, you want your thread coming out of the last bead, okay? You want it coming out of that last bead, okay? For your even close, you want that thread coming out of the first bead. Okay, that's the difference between the two. And that's going to help you keep that in, out pattern as you go along. I don't know if that makes any sense. I hope that does make sense. But your thread needs to be coming out of your last bead after your odd row. And your thread needs to be coming out of your first bead when you finish your even row. So in order to start your next row, so when I finish my first row, in order to start my second row, my even row, that has to be coming out of the last. And then say I'm finishing my second row, in order to start my third row, my odd row, that thread has to be coming out of the first bead. I really hope that makes sense to you guys. But we did do our, we've done row 1, and we've done, which is our odd row, and we've done row 2, which is obviously an even row because it's an even number. And we've closed them both. So we're going to make our markings so we know that it's been done. Okay. Now, I'm going to continue on until I need to change thread and or finish 2 more rows to close them, whichever comes first. And then we will go from there. I will probably let you guys just kind of work on it on your own. And that way we don't get too long of a video going on here. I'm pretty sure it's already too long. If you did want to, actually, I'm just going to explain it and I'm going to call it good because this is getting, I just noticed my time is getting pretty long. So if you did need to do a new thread, say your thread runs out, okay, you want to make sure that you can try and do it. You got to try and do it at the end of a row, and that way you know which one you need to come out of too. So like I said, you just want to weave it in and out and then knot it off. And I would use these horizontal threads here to snag onto to knot, okay? And just make a few knots and then hide your thread through a bead and then snip it off, okay? And then you can add another one in using the same method. Now, when you add it, like I said before, you want to try and bead at the end of the row. It just makes it easier with brick stitch. So don't forget where you were on this, okay? So since, say for example, we finished this row here, which is our even row, right? And I say we need to change our thread, okay? I got to that row, I'm down to nothing, I need to change my thread. So you are finishing on an even row, okay? So on your even row, remember, you want to go up and through that first bead, down the one below it, then the one behind it, and then back up through that first bead. Because when you do an even close, it has to be coming out of the first bead. So if you were to say, take this off of here, you're not going to have anything there to let you know, oh, well, that's where I need to be. So I would close the row, and then I'd put a new one on, put a new thread on, and then I would come back out, make sure I was coming back out of that first bead when I attached my thread, okay? I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment or message me. I'm going to leave that there for a second, and you can write that down if you want, or take a screenshot or snapshot of it, and that maybe will help you having that guide to kind of show you how to close the beads, okay? And then, let me take a snap, and then on this side, we've done the first 2 rows in our foundation, so that we're done up to here. Now, if you want to keep working on this all the way up to the top, remember, always right from left, always read right from left. Don't forget to do your back behind of your bag, and always remember to make sure you're keeping track of your odd and even rows. Your odd, even, odd, even, odd, even, okay? You're in and you're out. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Otherwise, you're going to lose your pattern. It's not going to look like that. And you'll be able to tell as you go along. But I appreciate you guys watching. I will come back. I might come back just to do a bead along. I might come back to just show you how to finish it off. It's going to take us all some time. So take your time and, you know, do as best you can. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. You can always go back in the video and rewatch areas that might be a little confusing to you. When I do come back, we will do the chain to attach it, and maybe some fringe and stuff and decorations on it, so make it look really nice. I appreciate you watching. You guys have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and you guys take care.